Welcome to this latest edition of the Ril Dil podcast, The Wire Remixed Season 2, Episode 5, Undertow. As always, I am joined by one Robert Sapp. How you doing, Mr. Sapp?
Doing very well. How you doing? Trying to stay cool.
That's all. Trying to stay healthy and cool.
There you go.
This,
Basics.
yeah, the basic essentials. This episode was directed by Steve Schill. It is ranked by Vulture to number 53 all time in terms of Wire episodes. The epigraph, of course, was by Spiros. They used to make steel. They used to make steel there. No, with a question mark. And getting back to our doc themes as far as undertow or words, undertow can be defined as a tide that traps unsuspecting swimmers. And there were a number of unsuspecting swimmers in this episode when you dealt with, when you think about Frank Zabaka, Ziggy Zabaka, and Avon Barksdale, just to name a few. You see characters who are trapped by their either trapped by their circumstances. You see characters who are in over their heads, and you see characters who can't see things coming. And of course, in the case of one Avon Barksdale, we'll certainly get to that over the course of the episode. But we begin with Ziggy.
Ziggy.
Your man.
My man.
Gets ripped off by a new character we get introduced to in terms of Frog, who's a drug dealer on the corner. Ziggy, of course, claims that he owes him more money. Frog says, "Look," Frog comes up short with the money, and Ziggy, it's like, it was a G pack. So this is no money for it. This did not come out right in terms of for it being the value of a G pack. Frog, of course, claims that the stash was taken. So he claims that the stash was taken and that they came up short. Ziggy, of course, is incensed by this, but no one takes Ziggy seriously as far as any physical threat. So Frog basically, stares at him, and Ziggy just, gets frustrated, is just pissed off. But before he could even get angry for more than 2 minutes, we get introduced to a new character, one Cheese Wagstaff, who of course was played by Method Man. And this character will be a essential character to the story from seasons on for the rest of the series. But at this point, we don't know. We just know that he's a drug man, and he's somebody who is not to be fucked with, as he takes Ziggy's car. Ziggy, of course, owes him money, and Ziggy doesn't have the money that he was going to get from that G pack from Frog. I'm assuming that was going to be used. Going to use that to pay Method Man, to pay Cheese. Ziggy, of course, comes up short. Cheese basically gives Ziggy a week to come up with the money before he kills him. He said, what did he say? He says, if you don't have the money on Friday, you'll be dead on Saturday. So he takes the money, refuses the coat, takes the money, the little money that Ziggy does have, and of course takes Ziggy's car, Princess. And Ziggy at this point has nothing but a ripped up jacket and a hurt ego to boot. Pay attention closely to Ziggy getting pumped, because it's going to be important moving forward as far as the direction of his character. What are your thoughts on this scene?
Yeah, it was a great intro scene.
Yes.
For the character of Cheese. I also was struck by how similar this scene was to a scene that will happen in season 4. And so different tone, but still same kind of idea. So this is something that they revisit more than once in The Wire.
Yeah, great opening scene. Again, we getting introduced to two new characters. Of course, one will play more of a role than the other, but still, for this season, those two characters will be will have their times during the course of the rest of the season. Of course, so we move on to Carver and Daniels. So a bit of a reunion between those two. Carver, of course, is wondering why Daniels would want him for this new detail. And Daniels basically says, I know that you wouldn't be basically crazy enough to fuck me over twice. And the fact, he's taking, we talked about this last season, that he sees something in Carver. Yeah. So it's continuing on with that theme. And he basically dressed Carver down. He says, look, I already know I already know your character. So it's not like I'm not gonna see you coming. Number one, two, those sergeant stripes mean nothing to me. You're just a regular cop in this detail. Kima's you're under Kima. So great leadership by Daniels, recognizing that this guy can be useful, but at the same time keeping him humble just because in spite of the sergeant stripes. And as in comparisons, and this is why we like Daniel's character and we respect Daniel as a leader. We've been discussing pettiness throughout the course of this season by various characters. McNulty, Ross, Valchek, Frank Sabaka. Daniels easily could have been petty and said, fuck you, Carver, I don't need you based on last season. But a great leader is not petty. They recognize that that somebody can be of use and they get the most out of that. So what were your thoughts?
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more. Great leadership moves by Daniels. Everything you said, like he recognizes something in Carver. He knows he has to keep him close, of course. Different circumstances. He's not as close with Valchek. So he knows he has to keep him close. And then, if you gotta even within that, giving him a different opportunity, he's gonna make him earn it. And so, yeah, all great leadership moves. All great leadership moves by Daniels. You're absolutely right. That's why we respect Daniels.
So we move on to your other guy, Bubbles. Bubbles and McNulty. So Bubbles goes to McNulty's, goes to the docks to meet McNulty. Not the docks, the Marine unit to meet up with McNulty, to kind of meet up with McNulty, to give him the information about Omar. But before we even get before McNulty even comes out, he was on the boat. McNulty's partner recognizes that Bubbles just can't help but to be Bubbles, as he seemingly was trying to figure out whether or not he could steal a state-of-the-art gas grill that was chained to a pole. And again, Bubbles plays this crackhead to a T. That is the epitome of a crackhead move. Trying to steal, attempting to. I don't know if he was going to try to steal it, but just even thinking about it. And of course, the cop tells Bubbles, yeah, just go over there. I'll get McNulty, you go way over there. And of course, McNulty comes out. Bubbles gives him the information on Omar, in regards to the Bird case. Bubbles, McNulty gives him some money, but it was not enough for Bubbles' troubles, as he tells the story that Omar stuck a gun in his face. He basically begs McNulty for some more money, and McNulty, of course, acquiesces and gives him some more money in exchange for the information about Omar's whereabouts.
Yeah, I mean, I'll take a little bit of a different tact on this one. It shows how valuable Bubbles is to not only the show, but like the characters on the show and in terms of their investigations. Later, Bunk will say something to Beatty Russell
Yes.
about how important having people who know what's going on is, and Bubbles knows what's going on in that street. And so the great Jimmy McNulty couldn't find Omar to save his life, and so he needed Bubbles to do it.
There's no question about it. Rawls, Freeman, and Bunk inquire about. You have Rawls inquiring about the case. Lets Freeman know that he's been detailed to Daniels's case. Freeman seemingly was not pleased about it. Felt like Rawls, told Rawls, did you just fuck me over? And Rawls basically in return says, if I did, he says, detective, if I do fuck you over, you will know it. You will know it. It won't be any doubt about it. So he's been detailed to the new case, to the new case. We will later find out more information about that and how those cases are intertwined. Quick scene, but what are your thoughts on the Rawls Freeman exchange?
Yeah, Freeman. We talked a lot about like how this was just basically revenge for Rawls. So I think it says two things. I think it says, how how much pull a Valchek has or someone of that stature has. So that's one thing. And then I think the other thing is, Freeman, once he gets involved in the case, he's not gonna let it go. It doesn't matter how difficult it is, and that's one of the things that makes him a great character on the show, is that he's him and McNulty are two sides of the same coin. In terms of I think I'm trying to think. No, that's coming up in a future episode. Just how dogged he is once he gets involved in the case. That's what makes it so valuable.
Yeah. I mean, you would think that he would want no part of this case that is basically unsolvable up until this point with the 14 murders, and to rejoin his old squad in terms of major crimes. But like you said, to your point, he's a dedicated cop. He's invested in this case at this point. And of course, Rawls lets Bunk know that it's on you now, Chief. So, which I know Bunk is not thrilled about that. Elena McNulty, Nick, and Amy are meet at a house that Nick Sabaka is looking at. This, of course, was his aunt's old house back in the day. It's completely been redone. This was a pure case of gentrification, as they have redone the house and jacked up the price. And he frankly, can't afford it. It's out of his price range. And he tells Amy at the end of the scene, Amy recommends at the end of the scene about renting instead of owning. What are your thoughts on this scene?
Yeah, this is a very tangible way to show why he's going to go to the lengths that he's going to go. A lot of people can understand pressures like this. And so he on his current position, it's not salary because he gets paid by ship. He can't afford that house, but his girlfriend and daughter need a place to live. So that's significant pressure. And so what is he going to do with that pressure? That's kind of where we are at this point in the story. And we're going to see where he's gonna go.
So you have Daniels, Carver, Herc, and Kima going over the strategy for the case. Herc volunteers to be on the street, of course, because because these dealers are white. You have and he of course jokes Shakima and Carver about them being on the rooftops, versus him being on the street. Freeman comes in, being of course newly detailed to the case, and immediately recognizes Sabaka. So he makes that connection, and and some of the old gang is off and running in terms of this case. What were your thoughts on this scene?
The crew's back together, essentially.
Yeah. You have Donette, D'Angelo, and son, and his son Tyrell in the prison, of course, discussing D'Angelo and discussing Stringer's promises and Avon's promises to D'Angelo, similar to a scene that D'Angelo and Donette had in season 1, where she's speaking, he's basically tuning her out. This was similar because even though he can't physically not, tune her out because he's right in front of her, he mentally is tuning her out and just playing with his son. Then he jumped into the conversation and basically tells her that, they're playing you with all that family and, all that family stuff and, hooking us up, and completely is not buying it. Of course, we know why she's there. She's there because of Stringer. And she basically says what they're going to do for him after he gets out and what have you. Again, he's having none of it. He spent most of the conversation, not all of it, basically playing with his son. What were your thoughts?
Yeah, this is a tough scene. Like normally I wouldn't even watch this scene. It's tough. It's that tough for me. I don't like it. But because I was watching, because we're doing this show, I watched the entire scene. And so what I was struck with this time is because of kind of like the line we've taken on Stringer and how everything is going, is how many times she mentioned Stringer. That really stuck out to me. And D'Angelo is 100% on point. He called it 1,000%. Like you said, we know why she's there, because Stringer sent him. And like you said, you put it in my mind last week in terms of that she's basically the stool pigeon for Stringer. And so he sees it coming. That's why he, in my mind's eye, again, tough scene is because of the way the actor plays it with Deanna, playing with the son, is because he knows it's all BS. He knows it's BS. He knows everything coming out of her mouth is coming from Stringer, or at the very least is BS. He knows it's coming from Stringer. I'm not even gonna go there. He knows it's coming from Stringer. And so yeah. It's another example. I mean, and he lays it out very well too, in terms of this is a business. Like they could say this family stuff all they want to say, but this is a business. I really like that point. But I was really struck by how much, Avon is his uncle, but the only name that was coming out of her mouth was Stringer.
Right. Yeah. I mean, yeah. She's been completely manipulated by Stringer. To of course, sift information out, get information from D'Angelo, or sense where D'Angelo is at mentally. You have a fiend. We go to the pit with Poop, Bodie, and Pudding. A fiend gets beat up for calling out the product, basically calling the product shit, which the product is.
And he never said it, actually.
And no, he didn't. Yeah, right. He didn't. He actually did not say it. He actually didn't say it. But Bodie doesn't know that. Bodie just sees red in terms of sees him get his ass, not see him get his ass, but sees sees the dude after he's gotten his ass whooped by the youngins. And Bodie basically says, not knowing that the dude didn't say it, but realizing that their product is shit, and says that we got call Stringer on it, and we'll see how that plays out over the course of the episode. What were your thoughts on this scene?
It's the overarching thing that we started talking about. The name who's starting to ring out is whose name?
Stringer.
Over and over again. Everybody's referencing. And so Stringer's overarching plan is coming to fruition.
Yeah.
He has all his people in place now.
Yes, and we'll get to, and it will further connect even more later in this episode with a particular scene with Bodie and Stringer. You have Nick, Matt, and Ziggy. Ziggy tells Nick about Cheese and about his car being taken.
That's what I wanted to say.
Taken because of the package. Nick thinks that Ziggy messed up the package. Nick tells Ziggy he doesn't have the money because he made it because of the deposit that he made, a security deposit he made on this apartment. And at this point, Ziggy is up a creek without a paddle. What were your thoughts?
I mean, like all of these scenes are going to connect to each other, and I meant to mention this in the opening. Not only is the opening an introduction for Cheese's character, but this is also building up. This is also building up to what this season is going to ultimately be about in terms of the reach and pull of the different people that are involved. And so you have at the beginning, like they're like, this is, I was hard on the wire last episode. This is them playing chess, not checkers, in terms of they're gonna peel out each individual move over the course of this episode. And so the first beginning is Ziggy gets beat up by Cheese, right? He owes Cheese a bunch of money. How is he going to get out of this? Maybe he'll go to Nick. Nick doesn't have that money. How are they going to get Ziggy out of this? So this is all building up to a realization about the strength of the counter organization.
Yes.
I'll be more clear as we go along with the scenes with Ziggy, Nick, and Cheese and his crew.
You have Valchek gets sent another picture of the surveillance van. This time he takes the fingerprints off the picture. And then you have Kima asking about the van. Of course, the van is missing. So Valchek basically says that the van has been detailed somewhere else. But of course, he doesn't tell her that the van is missing. What were your thoughts about Valchek?
The only thing that's important in this scene, I mean, not the only thing. The reason why this scene is there is to illustrate that Valchek cannot say what happened to the van.
Right.
Not only can he not say, he can't do anything about that specifically, which plays into why this detail is so important to him. In order to get his revenge, he can't just do it himself. That's the point.
You have Stringer and Professor Lucas. Stringer has just, of course, aced his microeconomics exam, gets an A-. Then he asks the professor how to deal with an inferior product. The professor advises him
in an aggressive market.
In an aggressive market, yes, an inferior product in an aggressive market. The professor advises him gives him a couple options. One, he could lower the price, but if he does lower the price, that will lead to devaluing the product that much more. Or he advises him he could possibly, and I think Stringer picked up on this.
He gave him the example of WorldCom.
And then he said change the name of the product. And Stringer, of course, takes that and runs with it.
Yeah.
What were your thoughts on this scene?
Yeah, no, pretty. That's where he gets the idea.
This would be a setup for a scene that this would be a setup for this was a setup scene in many ways. You have Horseface, Cole, and Bunk, Russell, and Sabaka. They're back at the ports or the docks, and give a number of the stevedores jury summons, and you have Sabaka basically telling them this is nothing new to us. Our unions have been through Richard Nixon, Tricky Dick, Ronald, the Union Buster Reagan, and we've beaten them all, and we'll still be here. And he quizzes one of his guys, Johnny 50, says, "What do you do if you ask a question?" And Johnny 50 says, "Take the fifth commandment."
Yeah, that's definitely funny.
Oh shit, that was hilarious. The fifth commandment, and then at this point, the most important thing that came out of this was the fact that Bunk, this kind of got Bunk realizing that we even gotta go deeper with these guys. So that to me was the most important part that came out of this scene. Like Bunk was like, okay, we gotta go another step when coming at these guys. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I think the parallel is apt, right, between the dock and the streets. Like this is the direct parallel, right? Like there's a code of silence. You're not going to come in and just be able to just get anything out of anybody. And so, like, remember in season 1 when Eileen is kind of like telling them how it is that why, like, what they need to prove in order to get a wire up and running. One of the things they need to prove is that normal investigation tactics will not work. And so this is another situation where just normal investigation tactics won't work because of that cone of silence. And so Sabaka gives this impassioned speech that just kind of like illustrates that one. And then I also think if for any reason, and I don't believe they were being like, well, maybe Sabaka could be not involved in it, that speech let them know he absolutely was. He absolutely is.
Yeah,
is involved in it because you can see it in Bunk's face. I mean, he's a veteran detective. He knows how people act in certain situations, and so that does that. And then I'll say one last thing, and then you can go. Also, it also shows Frank's insecurity as well, and how much against it, how desperate he is, which will lead into the final scene at the very end of this. He's putting on a nice show for everybody, but he's drowning under all of these issues. All right, I'm done.
Yep. That was the name of the episode, Undertow, unsuspected, drowning, trapped in unsuspected waters, basically. So this was brilliantly played by Bunk because, of course they would have loved to get some information, but like you said, Bunk is a veteran. He knows they've already dealt with these guys before. So instead of just giving the summonses, which they did, he kind of turned it into a you can call it an interrogation. And interrogation, if it's going to be an interrogation, that is Bunk's world. That's where Bunk and McNulty and those guys are at their best with the interrogation, because as we know, that great cops interrogations are like a form of art. There's an art to it. So Bunk played it cool. He gets the reaction out of Sabaka. Sabaka completely similar to McNulty. We've seen McNulty over the course of the season just overreacts and takes it very personally, and gets, like, to your point, allows his insecurity to get the best of him. Because up to this point, Sabaka has been, for the most part, dealing with the cops, a cool customer. He's been a cool customer for the most part. But him flipping out like that and putting on that show completely tipped, like it is like a game of poker. Like that completely tipped his hand, and Bunk Bunk is even like, okay, to your point, like, yeah, I got him, but yeah, we know you're dirty. You have Eileen Nathan, of course, the assistant district attorney, Omar McNulty. They're prepping for the Bird trial. Omar continues to lie about the murder with Bird, and again claims that Bird showed him the gun. We of course know that's not true. Of course, Nathan has her doubts about putting Omar on the stand. McNulty actually thought he did well, in his eyes, and she gives McNulty a waiver to get him some decent clothes. A waiver at a men's shop to get him some clothes. Very good scene, I thought. I thought it was brilliantly played by Michael K. Williams. What he said, the line he says, "Fish gotta swim," when he was describing, multiple murders with Bird. She asked about the murder. She said there was more than one. She asked the question, well, there was more than one, and he said, "Fish gotta swim." What were your thoughts on this scene?
Yeah, I mean, Omar is such a valuable character, and this is showing another side of his value. It's in pretty much every other case, that person would be labeled a snitch and be talked about and everything like that. But this is an extension of season 1. And and because Omar I'm saying a lot of different things in my mind, but I'm like trying to be careful because we're staying in the moment. This gives another look at the side of Omar, and this will go into the tool bag of Omar's code, so to say.
Yes. Kima and Carver. Kima and Carver are setting up in an abandoned row house. Looking at Frog, who's the corner boy dealing drugs, of course, that we met early on or in the opening scene with Ziggy. So they're setting up, waiting for Herc to make his move. So this scene, quick scene. This was a setup for. This scene was a setup for a future scene. You have Russell, Bunk, and the grand jury prosecutor at the courthouse. He comes out, says they got nothing out of the stevedores, got nothing out of the stevedores, and that's when Bunks tells Russell, we gotta, go another way. Like, what do you have in terms of an informant? Do you know somebody on the docks that could give us some more information? At first, and he tells her they say the police is only as good as its informants. And he tells B. Russell that, and we'll see how that plays out. What were your thoughts on this?
Yeah, that comment is about Bubbles. It's about Bubbles. And so, it's not specifically about Bubbles, but in the context of The Wire, it's about Bubbles. Bubbles is the best at what he does. And if you think about it over the series, I'm saying just to you, not to anybody who hasn't. If you think about it over the series, there aren't a whole ton of informants. It's Bubbles. So that's just a reiteration of how valuable Bubbles' character will be in a variety of different ways, but specifically in that format. Of course, this is a setup for also later on what B.D. Russell is going to do. But that comment's all about Bubbles in my mind.
Yes. Yeah. No. That's all. Yeah. There's without question about Bubbles. in terms of the context of the show. McNulty and Omar in a clothing store. They're in this cheesy clothing store. Of course, Omar doesn't like any of the clothes, and McNulty he picks out a jacket, and McNulty's like, that Omar's like, there's no way I'm gonna wear that.
That line is McNulty. I love this line. I've noticed this line every single time. I love it. McNulty goes, "This is the look." He picks up the yellow, bright yellow, banana yellow suit, holds it up to Omar, and goes, "This is the look." And Omar goes, "No, it ain't." So it's just a quick exchange by just that play. I mean, played by two fantastic actors in this series. I just love that scene. It's a great one-liner.
So you have so then McNulty says, he has to go across the street to the federal building. He has some other business besides that, of course, that he's dealing with in terms of the girl off the ship. And Omar says, I'll be, on Howard Street. And then if I'm not there, I'm at this, I think he said something about going to a club or something, basically. Let's see, Muffy or something to that extent. So you saw that exchange between those two. Again, a setup for things to come in regards to what we're going to see, and even not in this episode, by the way, in terms of Omar, and in terms of Omar, Herc, Carver, and Kima. You have Carver and Kima on the roof, or in the building, in the abandoned building. They weren't on the roof this time. They weren't on the roof at this point. They were in the building, and they're looking at Herc, of course. They're looking at Herc, communicate with Frog, make his intro, as far as going undercover. He has a toothpick, and Herc is loving it. He's loving being on the street and not being on top of the roof taking pictures. So you had that going on. Of course, it's set up for things to come. What are your thoughts on this quick scene?
Yeah, this is. I mean, I think if I had an overarching thought about like the context of this episode, it's just like the band is back together, but in a different circumstance, right? Like, and so it's showing how malleable the team is. It's not always, again, like this season is to show you the value of detective work. I mean, like in this specific circumstance, is also showing you the value of detective work and the value of this type of not investigative, not detective, investigative work. And it won't always look the same. Even in a city like Baltimore, it won't always look the same. And honestly, it shouldn't always look the same. Otherwise, that means you're targeting the same group of people, which again, this is the message of this season. And so pretty much the same crew. They're just shuffling the roles a little bit differently, and this is what an effective investigation looks like. Let me go back really quickly, because the introductory scene where Daniels is talking to everybody, you can just see the look on Presveluski's face, like, yes, this is how it's supposed to be done.
Yeah,
right? Yeah, we're past that thing. Yeah. This is how it's supposed to be done. And so like this is an extension of that. It's like Daniel says to Kima go to the like everything is moving. Like this is the difference between humps and people who do their jobs. do come to do their jobs. Nobody's doing anything, nobody's being a superhero or anything like that. This is just the difference doing a job. And then on top of that, it is a high-end type of investigation that requires depth and thought and subterfuge and a lot of different things. And so there'll be a line, I think, eventually coming up. It's not any type of spoiler line, so I'll just say it. Where characters referencing Rawls and Landsman is just basically like quick. All they have patience for is quick. So my point is, investigations like this are patient and have a lot of different moving parts, and so you need to be really well coordinated. And so, Daniels, given all the different things, was like, okay.
Yeah, they're back in their rhythm. to your point, Perez was the happiest person in that room during that beginning speech for everybody to be back kind of together. Yeah, McNulty and the special agent in the federal building. Important part of this scene is the federal building's name has been changed to Homeland Security, which is
it's what was going on at the time.
Going on at the time.
Absolutely what was going on at the time.
Yeah. And it also plays a small role in the from the cop standpoint in the theme of the show, as far as the direction of what the investigations and what the higher ups want to go into.
Exactly.
Dedicated.
What people care about.
Yeah. What they care about.
And what they're gonna, more importantly, what they're gonna spend resources on.
Yeah. He asked, is you have McNulty, of course, still inquiring about the girl that was, that he found off the ship in episode 1 of this season. Any thoughts on that?
No, we said that. We said everything that needs to be said about that.
Nick, Spiros, and Sergey, they're discussing the stevedores and again, grand jury. Spiros, of course, says there's nothing to worry about. They're going to run into a dead end. In regards to that, in regards to the dead girls, Sergey, of course, reaffirms that that statement by Spiros, and now they move on to what's most important. Of course, is Spiros, of course, asking about the chemicals. What were your thoughts?
Yeah, it's all about that introduction. You're absolutely right. Kind of switching off the what's going on with the girls and moving on to kind of like the big meat of what this season is going to be about. So it's introducing that concept, which will get further explained.
Yeah, McNulty meeting with the special agent. They discuss some of the field officers that have connections or that have the deported girls that McNulty can look into. McNulty, of course, is trying to find out if any of these girls know who the girl that he's looking for is. So we'll see how that plays out. This was, of course, a setup scene for what's going to play out towards the latter part of this episode.
I said, is it a setup scene? No, I'm joking. Keep going.
You have Russell and Maui. Now, Maui, of course, is the dude who can't stand Ziggy. They've been going back and forth in the previous episode. But it turns out that Maui used to date B. Russell. So she's asking about the docs. He's not going to snitch. He says he's not a snitch. Before that, he asked about the relationship and why it didn't work out. Then they get on to talking about the docs. He doesn't snitch, of course, doesn't give her any like straight up information, because I really don't believe that he knows a lot. But what he does give her is a major tip about the computer system, which we'll see how that plays out. And she, of course, that gets her wheels spinning from that standpoint. What are your thoughts about this scene?
Okay, so we got to piece the scene together. Now I love this scene, but I love this scene for because the scene doesn't go anywhere, but it's purposely doesn't go anywhere. As we'll see, that the tip does so let me break it down. Bunk tries to give Beatty some game. Yes. Beatty now tries to run with that game. That's the closest person she has to a confidential informant is somebody that she was close with on the docks, which happens to be Maui. I do not see it the exact same way. I do think Maui was telling. He was telling what he knows. He knows they know enough what's going on in those docks. They don't know that they're doing stuff for the Greek, but they know who's doing dirt where and why. And so he is what Beatty, of course, is using is his attraction to her. And so he is giving her information in hopes that that gets her on his own, on his that gets him on her good on her good side. That's what I was trying to say. And so all of that is whatever. I mean, that's fine. But the major point, and I'll connect it. I think I'll say for what I connected when we get there. Why I love this scene is because it shows what you love about The Wire. It shows how real investigations go, and real investigations hit dead ends all the time. As a matter of fact, most of an investigation is dead ends. That's what you do. You investigate, and then, nope, this doesn't lead anywhere. Let's go back. Let's go back to the drawing board. Now let's pull on another string right here. So I love, this is one of the big reasons why I enjoy The Wire so much, is because of the level of detail in its realism. They didn't play it up at all. But when we get to the actual scene about this, I'll connect these two further.
I think yes, he told her about the computers, but I don't realize he realized how big of a tip that was. I don't think
That's what I'm saying. I
don't think he was trying to, he by no stretch of imagination was trying to fuck over the Union or Sabaka. Let's make that clear.
I think you're viewing it from Sabaka's standpoint. Everybody doesn't see it the same way Sabaka does.
No, but I'm saying I don't think he intentionally tried to hurt.
Yeah, he did.
Oh, you think he did? Oh,
yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
He's trying to get, to be crass. He's trying to get him draws. So yes, yeah. He was telling her what he knew. He literally says, "Funny, you guys are running around with your heads cut off, like chickens with your heads cut off. But and everything you want is right there, right there. We used to write everything down and saved in there. Just because he didn't say it specifically, like, Beatty, you need to look at the computer to get dirt on them, doesn't mean he wasn't saying what he was trying to say. And she knew exactly what he was saying because she went and ran and told Bond.
Yeah.
But all that is for naught, and we'll get there.
So you have Ziggy and Nick. Nick tells Ziggy about the car being burnt up. He tells them, but he says, your car, you can basically cancel your car insurance, but you do have an extra week to pay Cheese. Quick scene, what were your thoughts?
Pressure. This is all about pressure. The pressure Nick feels and the pressure Ziggy feels, and then how they react to that pressure. I mean, economic pressure. We talked a lot last week about that, and we talked a lot throughout this show because that's a big theme. It looks different in the pit versus on the docks, but it's the same financial pressure that drives people to do certain things. So this is another step in that process.
You had the Greek and Spiros discussing the stevedores. The Greek had a great line in this at the beginning. He was like, we need to ease their minds. He was like, well, ease my mind first before we even get to that. So he tells them about Bond just tells the Greek about the grand juries, because I think the Greek was kind of annoyed by that at the beginning, but Bond just says, we're good on that. That's a dead end. The Greek says we'll pay their lawyer fees, but he refuses to meet with Frank Sabaka. Bond has told the Greek that Sabaka wanted to meet with you. The Greek says, no, we're not meeting. Just double his fee, and we'll pay for the lawyers. And of course, we're going to see what that leads to in the Greek. So the Greek knows Sabaka. He knows what makes Sabaka tick. He knows how the money moves Sabaka. So I don't ever think that he ever even considered meeting with Sabaka. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, this is kind of like this is now putting it all together in terms of everything that we've been talking about in terms of people's financial duress. I alluded to this last week. That this is the hypocrisy of Sabaka, right? Like this is the Walter Whiteness coming out of it, right? Like it ultimately becomes about the power that being able to attain large amounts of money gives you. Not only the financial freedom or the ability, in Sabaka's case, to buy high-level politicians, but also the intoxicating feeling. I think that's what Breaking Bad did so well, and why people responded to it so well, and what it showed us. And now we could draw that direct line back to Sabaka. Now is that earning that much money is itself intoxicating, is in itself a drug. And so while Sabaka isn't out on the streets like Ziggy trying to put a package together, what he is doing is actually levels above what Ziggy's doing, because of because more money, more let's go say more problems, more risk, more of a high.
Well, I mean, you could have said more problems, because the more money that he's getting is furthering his problems as he's getting deeper. But we'll get to that. So that actually might have fit somewhat. I know what you're trying to say. This is well played by the actor, whoever the actor is that plays the Greek. Just how subtle he is, and how just economic he is in terms of what he says. Is really no wasted motion with the Greek, or Vandas for that matter, in this scene, or even throughout the course of the series. Avon Stringer, big scene. So Stringer goes to visit Avon in prison. He discusses the inferior Atlanta product. Tells Avon who has the good stuff. Mentions, of course, a couple other drug kingpins, along with Pop Joe on the east side. Then Stringer asks about D'Angelo, and Stringer and Avon says the boy has to find his own way. He asked Stringer, says, I've been fair to him. He makes a statement, I've been fair to him. Stringer says, too fair. As much as they are in dire straits as far as their product, which they clearly are, this was about Stringer trying to get a read on Avon about D'Angelo as well, too. I think that was the main motivation for this meeting with Avon. What were your thoughts?
Could not agree more. Could not agree more. That's absolutely what the scene is about. I mean, I think we both experienced this the same way when we originally saw it. We were originally thinking, for D'Angelo, which that's in there, absolutely. But we missed the underpinning of it. And as we've gone back and watched and discussed this, we can now see it so very clearly. I could not agree more. It is all about Avon getting a reading on Stringer getting a reading on Avon. And then so the question that I was proposing in my mind was, who looks like the kingpin in this entire scene, right? Like Avon always, up until this point in time, has exuded ultimate confidence, right? Like ultimate confidence. And in this scene, he looks like a beaten man. He got hands over his head, he's crying and everything like that. And so if you're Stringer and you're like, if you're Stringer, you're like, how am I playing? Like let me like, I'm making all these moves. Let me see if he's sensing something. And you get there, you see that, you're like, oh, blood is in the water right now. Blood is in the water.
No question.
And so it gives him confidence to make moves on D'Angelo, not to spoil anything. Make moves on D'Angelo. And it gives him the confidence to keep playing it exactly how he's playing it. And his takeover is looking very successful at this point. Could not agree more with that statement.
Yeah, Stringer was in complete control during the scene. One of the very few scenes that you'll ever see Stringer and Avon do where Stringer's in control. This might be the only scene in the whole series, to be honest with you, where
we're gonna dive into that a lot in season 3. There's a lot going on in season 3. There's a lot.
Up until this point where we see
absolutely up until this point.
Up until this point where we see
absolutely
those two interact.
Yep.
Again, to your point, Avon's body language, it looks like like you said, he's down. Avon is stuck right now because he's stuck from 2 parts. He's stuck from the point of the product or lack thereof running out of answers from that standpoint, and of course getting rebuffed continuously by D'Angelo. So he's in a bad place, and this is even despite the fact that he, despite the fact that the Tillman situation went 100% in his favor. So yeah, Stringer definitely took advantage of the situation, and of course, we will see what this leads to, and I'll definitely have a question about this scene next episode in regards to what transpired. So yeah, this was a big scene moving forward without question. And I'll say this too before I move on to the next scene. When Stringer and Avon have talked about D'Angelo in the past, even when D'Angelo was fucking up, Avon would always retort with family. That was not the case in this scene whatsoever.
Well, that's why so I'll piggyback off of where you're going right here. That's why that scene with D'Angelo was so big in there, because he's like, they say this family stuff, but it's business. Family's all good when business is good, but business is horrible right now. Yes. Avon has no line to any type of product, and what are they? They're west side, right? Yeah, they're west side. So east side has the product and has the clientele moving over there. So business is horrible. So later for that family stuff. So D'Angelo said all facts, all truths. Business first, and business is horrible right now.
So we have Frank and Spiros. Spiros tells Frank, of course, Frank is upset that the Greek is not there. He wanted to meet the Greek. And then Spiros says, he's not here. And then basically Frank says, fuck this. And then Spiros tells Frank, we are doubling the money, which gives Frank a pause. And then he says a very important line, the epigraph, that you should make still there. No. That is basically telling Sabaka, you don't exist without us. That's what he was telling us. That's what he was telling him. Because those steel ports and docks are dead and shut down. And he says, if you don't have us, your union can end up like that. That's how I took that kind of like subtle shot at Bond. And Bond is the guy who plays Bond is played perfect.
Not so subtle.
It wasn't. No, it actually wasn't subtle.
Clear.
That was very especially coming from him, because he doesn't say a lot. But when this was like this was a direct. It wasn't even. This was a direct shot at Sabaka. Like, look, what are you gonna basically? What are you gonna do without us? What really are you gonna do without us? And
he pointed out their future. He played into Sabaka's fears, right? Like that's what Sabaka's been saying this entire time, right? Like, this will be the end of us, yada yada yada. That's why I'm doing all of this, and so he plays directly into that with that comment. To your point, he knows how to get Sabaka. The Greek does as well, which is why he says, let's let the money talk.
Nick and Ziggy, you had Ziggy looking up the chemicals on the computer. And you basically, again, they basically see the chemicals and see some of the prices for the chemicals. And of course, this depicts the difference between Ziggy and Nick as far as from a technological standpoint. Nick looks at a computer like, like basically like, what the hell is this? And he asks questions like, you could just type stuff in, type things in, and it'll give you information. So he's clueless basically on computers versus Ziggy's, expertise. And we'll see where Ziggy gets that from very shortly. So you had that going on in terms of that scene. But of course, the most important part of this is, of course, the what we've been discussing throughout the course of the episode. The last episode is these chemicals. Now, these chemicals keep coming up for a reason. It's not unintentional. Why? It's not by. This is by design. Why these chemicals keep coming up? They're going to play a major role in moving along with the season, how the season moves. What are your thoughts on this scene?
Yeah, I mean, so there's two things you got to remember with so the chemicals. I mean, this is a big reveal. It's a huge reveal. And then there'll be even more explicit of it by the end of the episode. But the thing you also got to remember and connect it to is what was said. What was that? We're in episode 5, right? I don't even think it was last time. It was either 3 or 2, where he first asked about getting the chemicals, and the guy says we need metric tons of this.
Yes.
So
Double G.
You got to put those two things together, and then you start to understand the scope of what's going on.
Yeah. Bunk and Russell. Bunk and B.D. Russell, they go back to the docks. Sabaka then proceeds to explain the computer system and how the cans move.
You skipped over a part.
Which part?
So they don't go to Sabaka first. And the only reason I'm talking is it's important how this goes, because that leads into investigations doing a dead end. I'll be more explicit in when I start talking. Keep going.
Sabaka discussed the computer system and how the cans move. Bunk recognizes it from the start that Sabaka is just giving them crumbs, not even giving them, he's giving them bullshit, and that he's running game when it comes to this computer system. Now, this computer system has been set up by Sabaka. So if you want to know where Ziggy got some, that type of skill set from, look no further than Frank Sabaka. So what did you want to include?
Okay, so there's so much going on in this scene. All right, so the way that the scene opens up is Bunk and Beatty get out of the car, and they're met by, I don't know what the guy would be named, the foreman or their IT manager, basically. And so they're going in and they're asking him, hey, what about the security system? Now, this is important because at this point in time, they have no clue Sabaka knows. They have no clue about any of the things, about none of that. So they're walking with the IT guy. They're asking him questions and everything like that. And he gets up there. He walks them up, or the IT manager, he walks them upstairs and starts to review the system. And homeboy who's there is messing up on it. And he's like, and can't figure it out. And the IT manager is like, blah, blah, blah. And then Frank comes over because he's mad at homeboy who lost the can legitimately or something like that. And the guy turns and goes, oh, you know what? Frank can probably show you better. He set up the whole system. And Bunk just kind of gets this look on and say, yeah. So it's a dead end. It was a complete, utter dead end. Because Frank set up the system. He's gang. So and then after that, then Frank Sabaka is able to give him all of the different ways in which a can could be disappeared legitimately. or I mean, a way in which the can could disappear and it not be anything, it not be anything foul, it not no foul play in there. And so that I was waiting to get here so I could connect it back to there. This was not the like. Again, last week I hammered the wire a little bit on the overuse of plot devices. This actually was the opposite of a plot device. This was a misdirection, but a misdirection framed in the way of an actual investigation and how it goes. They thought they had something. Bunk gave her some game. She used a little bit of knowledge she had to get it inside in there, but the inside led right back to Frank. And so again, this is reiterating that going back to, remember, the wire does not, like, this is why the wire is great, is because everything means something. In all seasons, everything connects together. So I go back to season 1 when Eileen gave us the rules about how you get wires, how you get those things set up. It's because normal police investigation tactics are failing. And so they tried to get it inside men. So let's check the boxes, right? So just going up and just, questioning different people that was there. Nope, they blocked that, like the code of silence. All right, so then we tried to get informant to give us information and then go that route. We went in there. The person that we're investigating is the person who's actually doing the system. So boom, now we're blocked out that route. So the wire is, since they told us specifically last season what the rules are, now they don't have to do that anymore. Now they're just showing us. So they don't have to waste time doing that, which is why they could spend the first few episodes setting up the new cast and setting up the new dynamics, because they wouldn't have to waste time with the rules. Excellent, excellent stuff here.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot going on. They did not go in with the standpoint that we're going to go see Frank Sabaka. They didn't, of course, to your point, they didn't even know Sabaka had anything to do with the computer system. So yeah, that I don't want to mislead the audience from that standpoint. That they went in with the intention of talking to Frank Sabaka, because that was not their intentions at all. This is kind of how it played out in regards to the scene. And Bunk right away knows that, Frank is giving them bullshit.
Well, it's a dead end. It just is a dead end. They know they wouldn't even roll the trip if they knew Sabaka created the computer system. Maui didn't tell them that because Maui didn't know that. It's just a dead end. It's just flat out a dead end. It's no deeper than that. It's a dead end.
So you have Stringer and the Barksdale crew discussing.
But it's beautiful that a show. It's beautiful that a show like this takes the time to show that. That's what it's revolutionary for its time. We got to put the show in its time and place. No shows did things like that at this point in time in television history. No. That's what we got to keep reiterating. Why this show is genius, because it was doing stuff that was groundbreaking that now we're familiar with. But at that point in time, no, stuff like this wasn't done on regular, by no means.
Stringer meets back at the funeral home with the Barksdale crew, breaking down business and a new strategy. He's asking them various questions, explaining what he had discussed with the professor, basically. And Bodie steps up to the plate and answers the question correctly and not only answers the question correctly about what you do with the product. If you have a weak product, Bodie advises to change up the color and create a fake competition amongst fiends within, because they control multiple towers, which was great for Bodie. We get it, being paying attention with Stringer. Shamrock tries to chime in and says, "I said the same thing." It was not the same thing they said, by the way. That Shamrock and Bodie did not say the same thing. Bodie was way more clear and concise and in terms of how he articulated his understanding of this. So now, to your point, you have that Bodie Stringer bond getting stronger, because Bodie was able to recognize what Stringer was talking about and two, you've been paying attention closely to that dynamic. That gives Bodie even more, Stringer more trust with Bodie. Like, now, okay, you're paying attention. Now I can entrust you with even more responsibility. What are your thoughts on this thing?
You're fanboying for Bodie basically right now. I love Bodie. You know I love Bodie, but no, you're reading too much into that dynamic right there. And I'm going to kick up for Shamrock. Shamrock was the one who suggested changing the caps first. He said it, and then Bodie added on competing in the tower. That's why Shamrock was upset. So I mean, like, they built off the idea of each other, which is what you want, absolutely. But in a competitive space, that's not how either one of them were seeing it, because Bodie gave the nice little sly smile at the very end. But Shamrock did say the gel caps first, changing the caps.
He did.
So I got a cake for Shamrock. I can't just give Bodie all the credit in there. But what this does show is exactly what you're saying. If we look at the evolving dynamic between Bodie and Stringer wouldn't even recognize him in season 1 at all. And now Stringer's giving him an attaboy in a meeting. Bodie's not in the pit. He's at the actual meeting. So moving on up and getting some recognition. Stringer also knows, of course, now that we've kind of fully started vetting Stringer out and his plan and everything, like, he has to get his people in place, people who are loyal to him. And Bodie has been Stringer's lapdog up until this point, always wanting Stringer's approval of things. And so it's also strategic in elevating people that are specifically and only loyal to him. Bodie,
these are his.
Homegirl, what's her name? Did you say it? Jeanette. Like, people who are specifically loyal to him. He's starting to put those pieces into place. So not only is it I was gonna say psychological warfare, but not kind of like that. That was the kind of like the psychological play going up and checking on Avon. But now he's starting to move the pieces into place, the actual people into place.
Yeah, and these are his guys now. I mean, Bodie, Shamrock. Shamrock wasn't around season 1. Bodie and Shamrock specifically are his guys. These are his guys. But basically, everybody in that room is his guys.
Yeah. But I guess by what I mean by that are only loyal to him, there is no Barksdale name. It's only Stringer.
At this point.
So he's trying, just like he's trying to size Avon up, he's also sizing everybody up. Yes, you're absolutely right. Everybody there, because all the muscle's gone, all got arrested, everybody there is seeing Stringer's trying to take it to the next level on that. And so he needs to know who's loyal to him and who isn't loyal to him.
Spiro, Nick, and Sergey discuss the chemicals. You have Nick inquiring about the chemicals, and Nick ends up figuring out what the chemicals are going to be used for in terms of processing cocaine, processing drugs. Spiros, of course, mentions that they go from doubling the money. He triples the money for the 3 cans, and of course, Nick, like that again. This is a case of the money speaking for itself, and also again Nick figuring out what the chemicals were going to be used for as he kept inquiring about it. What were your thoughts?
Yeah, so let me break this thing down a little bit. So the triple was for Sabaka, because Sabaka still up until that point had said no and told Nick to go tell them no. Right. And so as Nick is talking, it's like triple. And so the triple's for Sabaka. And then Nick says to them, hey, I checked up on that thing. Now, this goes back to what you talk about Ziggy. My man Ziggy and his computer skills, that's how they found out. Ziggy helped them look it up on the computer. I mean, got him going on the computer. And then when they were typing in, like, he literally is like, he said some type of chemical in that scene, and Ziggy goes, "How do you spell that?" And he goes, "FUC." And it's just like it's like some complicated chemical name. And then so Ziggy helped him put those names in, and then when it spit out, it showed what these things could be processing. And he put 2 and 2 together. It's not a bomb. It's for cocaine. And so this kind of brings all of those pieces together that we've been talking about in terms of that this is they are involved with people who are involved in a huge operation. Not just, they're involved with people who are involved in a huge operation. And so the money has the potential to be really, really flush. Not just no chill, nickel and dime, staying on the corner, what Ziggy was trying to do.
So you have McNulty, he inquires about the girl. He's in Jersey at this point, and he meets with some of the girls who were deported, not having been deported, but were picked up illegals. They're in jail. And he tries to see if any of the girls recognize his girl. They are looking at the pictures, and one of the girls asks, "Will this get us free? Will this get us free if we are to give information or recognize her?" McNulty, of course, doesn't say anything because he can't make that. He can't follow through on that promise, and then immediately the girls say nothing, and that part of the case hits a dead end. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, this is the opposite of what I was talking about on the other one. This is the plot device, and I can't let it go in this episode because it brings to bear everything that I was saying last episode. This is to give McNulty something to do. Just that simple. That simple.
Yep. Yeah.
It means nothing to nothing. That's the difference. Everything that Bunk and Beatty are doing is as I said, checking off the boxes of how to get a wire, how to get everything like that's going to need for the port. This does nothing. Unless somebody can tell me different. No, this does nothing. This is just something for.
Yeah, if you look at this episode, outside the scenes with Bubbles and Omar, McNulty didn't have these other scenes with the girls weren't
No, we talked about it last week. This is a recurring thing for McNulty and the plot device that's needed for him. So this isn't about McNulty. This is about the writers on this one.
So you have Freeman, Daniels, Bunk, and Russell meet back up at the detail. They try to convince Daniels to take the murders with the cases intertwining. Daniels wants no part of taking 14 murders, especially without a clear suspect. So at this point, Daniels, of course, declines to take on the murders, take on the 14 dead girls, and rightfully so at this point. I mean, this case, Daniels is smart enough to know that at this point the case is that case is not going anywhere, and why take on, why even think about taking on that at this point? And at this point, they don't understand the entire scope of what is going on, and rightfully so. They just met up. They just got back together, so they don't even know how big this case is or will be at this particular time. What were your thoughts?
Yeah, you just gotta file this one away. I give up too much talking about this one.
Yeah.
This just file this one away. This means something, but it won't come to specifically what it means until I think like 11 or 12, maybe 10. I think it's like 11 or 12.
Yeah, there'll be some payoff. This will be.
You just gotta file this one away. We'll come back to this.
Yes, absolutely. Sabaka and Nick. So yeah, Frank and Nick discussing Sabaka tells Nick that all the stevedores are working today. One of the rare times that they're getting work, that everybody's getting work for a particular day. Then Nick tells Frank about the Greeks' offer in terms of tripling the money. And Nick is the one that kind of wants to proceed with that. Nick was the aggressor in this particular scene. Like you can see Nick's eyes lighten up at the thought of what could be moving forward. What were your thoughts?
Yeah, this is the opposite of that, you know. So Nick comes up and is like, "Hey, here's the thing," and Sabaka's totally thrown off because you got to remember Sabaka sent Nick to go tell the Greeks to fuck themselves, basically.
Right.
On the double offer, he was not doing a double offer, and he goes, "Oh, they said he goes triple." He said, "Wait, no." Frank goes triple. He's like, "Yeah, they told me you were good with this," and then Frank goes, "We need this, Nick. We need this.
Yeah,
it's now or ever for the doc."
Yeah, he told you.
So Nick doesn't know anything that's going on in there. He's just giving him the paper. Remember, Nick's deal is about the chemicals.
Chemicals, yeah.
That's Nick's thing right there. Sabaka's thing is what's going on. And when Sabaka hears the triple, which then builds into Sabaka's hypocrisy is the best word. Where he's trying to be morally right because of the girls. And as soon as they triple, it's like, that's a lot of money. Guess we gotta just go ahead and keep on doing this. And he's trying to link it back with the doc, but this continues that theme of Frank's hypocrisy. And again, I always connect it with Walter White because this is such a nice, clear line of if you've seen Breaking Bad, if you've seen that character, then you know what's at the heart of why Frank is doing what he's doing.
And that is how the episode ends with that. So yeah, just a few, a lot of moving pieces in this episode in regards to, again, still set up, but you see where certain things were going to go.
Oh yeah,
some things
we hear.
Yeah, we see where certain things are going to go. Chardine Award for Best Performance, I had Bondus, especially in that scene where he's with Nick, and especially with a couple scenes. Well, the one scene with Nick, and the one scene with the Greek, and then the scene with Sabaka when he says the epigraph.
Yeah. Man, I'm trying to decide. Okay, so I was thinking of the person I'm going to give the MVP to for this, but I'm going to say that for the MVP. So I'm gonna go with Omar for this part. Like I loved his interactions with McNulty in the whole process. His interactions with the prosecutor, McNulty's smiling at him, and then his interaction with McNulty in the store. If I had to narrow it down, it's the one in the store that I just love. But it's real chill and real. I mean, Omar will have absolute MVP moments later on, but this is a nice chill, like just another side you get to see of Omar. So that's what I'm going.
MVP, I have B. Russell for my MVP. She took the game that Bunk gave her, applied it, and even though got the tip about the computers, which will play a major part and have a major impact moving forward throughout the course of the rest of the season. So I have B. Russell as the MVP of this episode.
I'm gonna go with D'Angelo. Like I said, that scene is heartbreaking to me, and it's all because of yeah. I'll go with D'Angelo. The scene is heartbreaking. He outlines the theory of the Barksdale organization, and he foreshadows Stringer and Barksdale's relationship. I'll just leave it at that.
Yeah, no, I can see that. He read. I mean, he saw Stringer coming from a mile away in regards to that conversation with Donette. Yeah, no, I definitely, he definitely could be. I could definitely see that. Um, Again, we have major things to come throughout the course of the rest of the season. Big episode coming up next week.
Sir.
So, we got this was a brisk hour and 26. I anticipate that next week's will not be 26 with the number of things that you're gonna have that will be going on in the next episode, which will be a major episode to in the series. Not only this season, but in the entire series of The Wire. Next week's episode is a big time shift, to say the least. Any last thoughts, Mr. Sapp?
No, be healthy, be safe.
Yeah, no question.
Stay cool.
Yeah.
Tomorrow's gonna be blazing.
Ridiculous. As always, thanks to Robert Sapp for joining the program. We'll see you next time.
Later.
All right. Let's go wrap it up for this latest edition of the Ril Dil podcast, The Wire Remix episode, season 2, episode 5, Undertow. Be safe out here. I will see you next time with another edition of the Ril Dil podcast. This episode will be up before midnight. Certainly before midnight. I'm out.